Okay, just started recording and we are ready to rock and roll. Thank you everybody who's tuned in and taken the time to take some time to tune into this. I really want to do a quick introduction to the rental subsidy, who qualifies for it, what is covered, what entails. Yeah, so anyways, let's get right down to it. I don't want to be too long on this. My good buddy Matt is busy actually applying for this for his clients. So he couldn't make it today, but you're going to get me and just me. So congratulations. And if you do have any questions, please go to the Q&A or just send me a direct note on the webinar. So I will be recording this and I will be putting it onto YouTube probably later on today and maybe tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Anyways, I'll give you a little bit of a rundown here as far as the rental subsidy is concerned. The federal government came out in October and announced an additional $20,000 on the CEBA, which we still don't have a whole lot of information on. But they also rolled out a rental subsidy, which goes directly to the business owners and not to the landlords. The CECRA was the previous rental subsidy, which went to the landlords, and you would have to be applying for that. It was very complicated. You would not apply as the business owner, but as the landlord, you would qualify for it, and you would have to then pass it down to the end users, to your tenants. Anyways, that didn't really go over very well. Most landlords didn't actually take it, and it was overly complicated, overly complex, and not worth it for the landlords to do it. So when anything's not worth doing, they don't technically ever do it. So anyways, that brings us to now with the emergency rental subsidy. This goes directly to the business owners. So without further ado, let's talk about it. Who can apply? Well, you've had to have had a CRA business number on September 27th, 2020, and a payroll account on March 15th of 2020. March 15th, 2020 is when they shut down the economy in various provinces across the country in order to basically save or try and flatten the curve. And now we are in the second wave, so things are kind of going, and there is a subsidy for lockdowns as well. So if you have any questions on that, please just let me know. You purchase the business assets of another person or partnership and meet condition 2 above, and you've made an election under special asset acquisition rules. So there's a bunch of stuff with Canada Revenue. If you purchase business assets from another person and the expenses qualify under the rental and sublet. Okay, so as of right now, they have announced that there are CERS claim periods. So period 1 is going to go from September the 27th to October the 24th of 2020. Period number 2 is going to go from October 25th to November 21st, 2020, and so on and so on and so on. So they've projected this out until May 11th to June 7th. There's no reason to believe that they're going to continue to do this, but who knows what's going to happen next year. I am a little bit concerned about some of the talk from certain people that, they want to continue the lockdown, they want to continue things in that regard. And I'm all for flattening the curve, but we also have to look at small business, and small business, if it doesn't get through this, then we've got a whole lot of other problems to worry about. So yeah, so they've got these they're in monthly forms, they're in monthly periods, and you get to go and apply for them online. So what is covered? So it's not just your base rent, it is your triple net for that. So that's your additional rent on top of your base rent. The triple net can be changing. Triple net can include maintenance, it can include your property taxes. So and actually your utilities as well. So the subsidy will be available on a sliding scale to a maximum amount of 65%. In order for you, and I'll go through in the next slide, it tells you what will qualify for the 65% subsidy. And if you are in a lockdown, so if our friends in Manitoba and Toronto and that type of thing, they'll get a possible 25% pop up if they're in a lockdown situation. And there are definitions on that, and I'll cover that in another slide. But it has to be a mandatory public health order issued by a qualifying public health authority. So again, if you are ordered to shut down your business, or if you're ordered to shut down and be by the provincial authority, you will qualify for the 25% top up. If you don't qualify for that, if it's not an official mandated lockdown and you voluntarily lock down, it doesn't count. So let's just keep our businesses going as much as we possibly can. Okay, so if you go in, and we are going to go onto the calculator, the Canada Revenue Agency calculator. The TRA has a wonderful calculator, and you'll see this. And it's very easy to use. And yeah, so we'll go over that as well. So if your revenue decline from last year to this year is 70% and over, so there's a lot of businesses such as hospitality, restaurants, event planning, that type of thing. If your revenue is down over 70%, you'll qualify for the 65% base subsidy rate. If your revenues are down 50 to 69%, so example, you're going to have a 40%, at 50% revenue drop, you'll qualify for 40% times 1.25%, or times 1.25. So if you're at, for example, if you're at 60% revenue drop minus the 50% times 1.25, you're going to be at 52.5% subsidy rate. I kind of see what they're doing here with this is that they're just going to try and make it a ratio. And if you're down between 1% and 49%, revenue drop times 0.8. So they're doing a multiplier of 0.8. So if you're down, for example, in the CRA example here, it says, if you're down 25% revenue drop from last year. So again, you need to have been in business from last year to this year. They need something to contact us. If you're a new business, I'm not sure what you're going to do about this. Anyways, you're looking at a possible 20% subsidy rate if your revenues are down 25%. I think these are fair numbers. Again, these are mandated. All of the extra protocols, all of the extra things, all of the shutdown, all the economic stuff, that is all from the government. Those are government orders. So most businesses are complying with these orders, and we're doing it. But at the same time, you know, if you're going to be ordered to shut down your business, you should be subsidized for some reason, in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so lockdown support. So if in BC we go into a lockdown, this is very important. You will qualify for an additional 25%, but your base rent subsidy is factored in on that as well. So you're going to get, so if you're able to sell online and your revenue is still, some revenues flowing in, you're not hitting the actual revenue that you had before, you will then get, you'll get the ratio that you're qualified for, and then you'll also get the 25% additional lockdown support. So again, if you're, I'd say like what you're under a provincial health order from like gyms, cycle fit, yoga studios, hot yoga studios, those types of companies, you will qualify for the additional 25% because of the lockdown. And the public health order must be issued by a federal, provincial, or municipal government or a local health authority. And it must be limited and based on at least these two factors: geographical boundaries, type of business or other activity, and risks associated with a particular locations. If you don't comply with the order, then you will risk sanctions. There's another stipulation. So if it's just a recommendation, they're not going to pay you the additional 25%. It must be, and I can't stress this enough, it must be a lockdown from a provincial or municipal health authority or federal government. So if Justin Trudeau comes out and says, we're locking everything down again, then you'll qualify for this. If Dr. Bonnie Henry comes out and says, we're shutting down all food processing factories, which she won't do, but if she does, then the food processing factories will qualify for this. An order that restricts or reduces, and here's the caveat, an order that reduces or restricts activities, which is everywhere right now, and doesn't require you to close or stop certain activities, does not qualify for the lockdown support. So you will qualify for the base rate that you're allowed to get, but you will not qualify for the additional 25%. And I believe the 25% is an actual straight 25%. It's not a ratio such as the other calculations that we see here. When you go from 50 to 69% revenue drop, you're going to get 40% minus a 50% times 1.25. So if you're at 60% minus 50% times 1.25, you're getting a 52.5% rate subsidy in this example here. The 25% is not on a sliding scale. So if you're locked down, you're locked down. So if you're able to, finagle 40% of your revenue from last year, and by doing online sales or any of those other types of adapting to certain things, but you're still in lockdown, you'll qualify for the additional 25%, because that will make up for the foot traffic that you are missing, or the potential foot traffic that you are missing and going through that. So I like this program because it is fairly straightforward. It's not overly complicated, such as the CERS. There's not a lot of rules and requirements other than the fact that you have rent that you have to pay. So let's go to the rental subsidy page. Okay, so if we go to this page here, we use the calculator, and we're going to select a period of September 27th, and the website is on the presentation, and you can Google search this if you need to. Let's just say you're going from September 27th, 2020 to October 24th, 2020. So we're going to go for period 1. And the affiliated businesses, charities, and nonprofits. So if you have any affiliated businesses, it's combined amount to a maximum of $300,000 in eligible expenses. So if you have 3 or 4 locations, if you have affiliated companies, affiliated entities, that would be as well. Now, there are restrictions on arm's length transactions. So if you have multiple corporations and one corporation's paying, for example, this was the example that I heard. You have a holding company that owns a piece of real estate. Your operating company sublets from that company. That will not qualify. You cannot use government money to pay your own rent to yourself, and they will check. And it's very similar. And the one thing that I'm noticing with all of these subsidies and everything else, if you're wanting the government money, your books need to be in order. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. You need to have your books in order. You need to have all of your stuff filed. You have to have filed your taxes. It's very similar. It's not like the CEBA, or not the CEBA, sorry, the CERB that everybody was getting $2,000 and it was a voluntary declaration. And you're going to pay for that next year when they start checking things out if you don't qualify for the CERB, because they are going to check. So it'll find out if you have any affiliated entities. So here's the application form. Will have up to 10 affiliated entities. So I don't know how many people have that, but I'm sure there are a few people that do have that. So we're not, and in this example here, we're not going to. So compare baseline revenue options. So these are your options that you have. Eligible revenue you earned in corresponding month in 2019, or the alternative prior reference period, the average eligible expenses. So you would have to have been in operation in January or February of this year prior to the economic lockdown. You must choose one of these prior reference periods and use it when calculating a revenue drop for the base rate and claim period. You must use the same option for all future. So you don't get to pick and choose which is better for you. You have to pick one and go with it. So if you're looking at last year's revenue, and last year's revenue was X, and this year's revenue is Y, you have to continue with that. You cannot say, okay, well, January, February, I was at this level, I'm going to switch it over. That's a no-go. So we're going to compare, in this case here, we're going to compare 2019 with the same month from last year. So here's your revenue amount for September of 2019 and October of 2019 and September 2020 and October of 2020. So let's just throw in some numbers here for it. So let's just say your revenue in 2019 was $30,000 in September, and it was same amount in October of 2019, and in September of 2020, you're working, but you're down by, let's just say you're down by almost half. So you're at $17,000. And October, let's just do the same thing to keep the math simple, because I'm not a smart guy, apparently. And we're going to go update. Okay, your current revenue drop is 43.33%. Your previous revenue drop was 40. Because of the higher of these revenue drops is 43.33. Your rate is calculated as your revenue drop times 0.8. So your rental subsidy is 34.66%. So then if you go down to the next screen here, and we can put in, I'm in Abbotsford, so let's just put in Abbotsford and VO. And calculate your lockdown support rate. Does the location qualify for lockdown support? Okay, we've covered the eligibility, and yes, we do qualify. And you were oh no, we weren't in lockdown. Let's just say you're still working. Sorry, my bad. And do you own or rent this property? Well, in order to qualify for this, you need to have rented it. Are your rent and any other rental income from this location paid monthly? Well, most people do pay their lease or their rental monthly. If you choose the monthly option, your rent for each month will be prorated for the days that fall within the 28-day claim period. So the claim period doesn't follow the 1st to the 31st or the 30th. It follows on odd days. So they will prorate that back. Okay, so let's just say your rent in that space was $5,000 a month. Rental income. If you are subletting to people in your office to try and minimize your expenses and minimize your costs, you have to declare your rental income. So in this case here, we're not going to have any rental income, but we can go back and see. So you're not subletting to anybody else. And monthly eligible expenses in October, we'll do the same amount, 5,000, and no rental income for that amount either. And so qualifying expenses, you will get type of expense. So you're qualifying for $4,537.63. There you go. So here's your rental subsidy. Lines 160, total qualifying rent expenses, revenue drop from the current period, lockdown support. So you will get $1,572 of Canadian emergency rent subsidy based on the thing. Okay, let's go back up. Let's try another example. So if we go up to here, and let's just keep the numbers the same. And your revenue is now, let's go down, your revenue is now $5,000. And let's just say you're on lockdown. So you're in Toronto, Ontario, because we know that they're in lockdown. Let's see if I think it's NON. Well, we'll figure that out. And you are in lockdown. And so they started your lockdown date, and let's just say the lockdown ironically fits those dates of the restrictions. Because your location was closed due to imposed COVID-19 restrictions for 28 days, your lockdown support rate is 25%. So for example, if you were to say, okay, well, it's only going to the 15th of October, you're going to get 16.96%. Let's go back up to the 24th. Okay, so now you qualify for and you are renting the property, and we're doing monthly, and your rent is the same, and your rental income is the same. So lockdown support, and we get your rent subsidy amounts, calculate your total rent subsidy. So let's scroll down here. You're going to qualify for 83.33% revenue drop. And if you are in lockdown, you will qualify for $4,083.87. And if you look, so you have your base emergency rent subsidy, you've got your lockdown support subsidy amounts of $1,130. So that's the subsidy for the lockdown amount. So a few things that are coming to mind here is that it is a sliding scale, and but what my concern is that it doesn't identify the companies that are in lockdown but are still doing some business. It's actually almost like benefiting the clients or benefiting the people that are not operating at all. And you'll have some of your rent paid for. If you can still, now here's the other thing is you have to have survived as a business if your revenue's been locked down. So like there's hospitality companies, event planning companies, those types of things, they're down like 95% from March until now. And there's nothing on the horizon for them to really other than the vaccine that's coming out, there are some significant drops. So if you are in lockdown, um, there's not a lot of benefit to you. If you aren't in lockdown, let's go back and go no, and we will try some new numbers. Let's just say your revenue was 30,000, 30,000, and let's go and say you're down 28,000. You're down to 20,000. So business has been pretty good considering. And we'll go back to Abbotsford, BC, and we're not in lockdown here, and we're renting the property, and the rent is the same. So the same $5,000 baseline. So we get our results, total rent subsidy. We'll scroll down. So if things are going fairly well for you, your subsidy will be $242.31. So there's your subsidy rate. They'll give you 5.34% back on your rent. So it's up to you if it's worth the while to go through that. However, I would definitely go and apply for it if your revenues are down, because these are artificial drops in revenue. This is not real business. Like, we still don't know what's going to happen when the ensuing recession comes out and what's going to happen. So I'm telling people, as long as we're in some sort of government mandated lockdown or government mandated restrictions where we have to wear our masks, I've got my mask right here. If you have to wear your masks in public spaces, and it's inevitably, every pandemic that they've ever recorded in history has impacted the economy. They go back all the way to like bubonic plague, the plague in Britain, the Spanish flu, any of the other flu outbreaks or any other pandemics that we have had in our history. The economy has been impacted by that. So that is coming up next year, and that was what you need to be prepared for next year. If you have any interest in being in business, be prepared, because it's not going to be a smooth sail once we have a vaccine. Survive this year coming up and the recession, and there might be some good times in 2022 to 2024. You could see the roaring 20s come back, as it were, like we did in the 1920s. So yeah, that is the rental subsidy. I just wanted to get this one a quick meeting out. I know it's not a long one. However, I do think that it's important that we get the information out. And if we don't have any other questions, then I will go back to this and we will see here. Okay, so my information is here. I'm Lyle McDougall. I'm a certified financial planner, and my email address, if you have any questions, concerns, or if you need any more information, I am always here to help. So over the holidays, I will be doing, if you need any assistance or anything like that, I'll be on my phone as much as I possibly can be. And yeah, I'm information and advice. I'm going to try and get as much of that out to people as possible. And if not, then we will have a very Merry Christmas. I hope this is the last one I'm going to have to do. I'm hoping that there's no other new curveballs that are being thrown our way from this nasty little pandemic. This virus is quite crafty and it's quite crazy to see what our society is going through right now. So anyways, we're all in this together. Some are in it more than others. If you need any help or concerns, myself, my team are all here to help. So please do reach out if you do need anything. So on that note, I will stop the meeting, and thank you very much.